Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to this week's podcast from Michigan. I'm really excited about today's guest, Greg, and he is a EOS framework, and he's going to talk to us all about that. He's going to talk to us all about his what he does for his business, his clients, and really happy to have him on. Greg, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to dive into the questions.
Yeah, so my name's Greg Giniel. I am in Southwest Michigan. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I am an entrepreneur by heart. I've started multiple companies, and I got to be honest, one day I was heading into work and I was regretting going to the place that had my name on it. And I thought, wow, that's not the way that's supposed to be. And I came across EOS and we were off to the races ever since then. Just absolutely fell in love with it. And it's almost like having the cure to business cancer. It really is tremendous. So I love sharing it.
Yeah, and for the listeners and viewers, we had an EOS framework a couple years ago, but let's talk about what is EOS, what does it stand for, what's the framework, and how you use it to help clients.
Yeah, so EOS stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. It is not software, but it gives you a framework to really understand how to run your business effectively. So the three things that are results of what we typically have are vision, traction, and health. So vision from the standpoint of getting the leadership team 100% on the same page on where you want to go and how you want to get there. Traction by instilling discipline and accountability at the leadership team level, and healthy by creating a healthy company culture that attracts all the people that you want it to attract or repels the people that don't belong. That's the overarching goal of what we want to accomplish.
And you talked about vision, traction, healthy. Those are the three things every leadership team must master. And so when clients would talk about client avatar, when people hire you, what do they hire you for, to solve a particular problem or to achieve a certain goal? What are they wanting out from you?
Typically, we see several frustrations that business owners go through. From the most part, lack of control. The business is controlling them and they're not being able to control the business. Frustrated. They're frustrated by people issues. They don't have a real grip on their business, profit or the lack of profit. As entrepreneurs, we go into this and we start these organizations ultimately to build a legacy for ourselves and our family and get financial freedom. And then we find ourselves absolutely handcuffed to the business. So everyone wants to be the business owner until it's not fun anymore. So those are the things that we really see often is just getting a grip on it, not having the flavor of the month club. We've implemented this, it didn't work, that sort of thing. This is really to drive traction of where the leadership team wants to go.
Yeah, interesting. And so talk about the EOS tools that transform chaos into clarity and how to get unstuck.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the EOS framework, we're really talking about strengthening the six key components of every business. And so the six key components are actually right behind my head. That was from a presentation I gave last week to a new client, but it's vision, getting everyone on the same page. We spoke about people, having the right people in the right seats. Those are tools that we can talk about as well. Data. As entrepreneurs, we tend to run our businesses from gut instinct, right? And we need to really start to run it off of the hard data. Issues. Every business owner, we're just really problem solvers at the end of the day. And so, how do we set those problems up, knock them down, and make them go away forever? And so, we give a framework around that. Process, we take a 20/80 approach to our processes, but making sure that once we have our core process documented, they're followed by all. And then traction, gaining that momentum moving forward on a weekly, quarterly, and yearly cadence.
Interesting. Yeah, and for the listeners, or these ideas are really key. The other thing that was really fascinating to me in my journey was business owners being the bottleneck. And the one thing that Tony Robbins saying is the psychology of the business owner. And you talk about stop being the bottleneck and building a business that runs without you. How do you help clients with that?
Yeah, we start with the people portion of that and having right people, right seats. And the right seats, we have to start with structure first, people second. And so I'm a big sports fan, and I tend to use a name that most people will know with Tom Brady. And so, would you take Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, on your team? And I always ask that question, but I wouldn't take him if I was building a baseball team, right? Because what position would I put him in? And so having the right structure for your organization is really key. And then having the right people in your organization that truly fit your core values. And so one of the tools that we use is we take our core values that are discovered, they're not aspirational core values, but they're really discovered through the tools that we use. And then we make sure that everyone on the team shares those core values. And if they don't share those core values, they're going to be working in opposition against you. I don't care how many bolt-on processes that you try to put around that person, it's never going to work because they don't share the same values that you share. So once we have the structure and then the right people, then we put the right people in the right seat for that. So that's one of the tools that we use. And it's amazing because it doesn't matter if I'm working with a team of 10 or a team of 200, all these seats on the leadership team and throughout, these are all things that are already being done. And what most business owners tend to find is that they're in 3 or 4 of the seats, maybe 5, right? And so that bottleneck is now they're wearing all these hats all the time. And when you start to lay it out on a whiteboard and you start to work through that, the business owner realizes, well, I'm doing way too much. And so finding those right people to put into those seats it frees them up. And I would just got off a phone conversation with a client that I'm starting this weekend, and he just said, I'm not looking for more homework. I need my team to be able to do more of what I'm doing so I can be the face of the organization. And that's what we really concentrate on is where do you want to go as an organization?
Interesting. So there's always a time when a company is ready for EOS. How do you know when a company is ready, and what are the signs?
Yeah, so a company is really ready when, let's put it this way, our target market is really 2 million to $50 million in revenue, 10 to 250 employees. Now I've worked with teams of 3 and worked with much larger teams. The moment that you feel like you're just playing fireman, right? You go in every day and all you're doing is putting out fires as a business owner. You probably needed EOS a couple of years ago. And so those are really key signs when you're handcuffed to the business where you cannot take a vacation or you can't take a day off because the house of cards is going to collapse. You need EOS. And so I'll share a story with you. When we implemented EOS, I was everything. The business owner tends to be the star, right? And it's really hard to sell a business if you're the star. You can't do it. And in 2021, I came down with COVID and I was really sick. And I had my phone off for a month straight. And I went back as soon as I felt better and I got back in the office and I started to talk to my integrator. And I said, Josh, tell me what's going on. Come on, we've been together for 6 years. He said, everything's fine. I go, come on, Josh, don't BS me. Tell me what's going on. He goes, I don't know what you want me to tell you. We did our job. We put money in the bank. Everyone got paid. And it was like, oh, I actually have a business now. And that was so eye-opening to me of actually being able to get hit by the proverbial bus for a month and not have any conversation, not one, with the team, but they were able to move on and persevere and grow without me.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, so you told us about the other question I have for you is what is one EOS tool that listeners could start using tomorrow?
Yeah, I think my favorite tool is the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, because that's the basis of where we start. And so the Vision Traction Organizer really is a 2-page document that answers 8 questions. And those 8 questions are, what are our core values? What's our core focus? What do we do really well, better than anyone else? And what's our passion for it? What's our 10-year target? And so when I talk about 10-year target, being in Michigan, are we going to drive to Seattle, Washington or Tampa, Florida? Those are 2 completely different roadmaps, but we need to know what the end looks like in mind. Then we go into marketing strategy. What's our demographic, geographic, and psychographic of our ideal client? We really define our 3 uniques. What do we want to tell our customers? What makes us head and shoulders above our competition? And that's what we need to be sharing with them. And then we get into the proven process and the marketing strategy. After that, then we start to work on the 3-year picture. What does that look like? So as a team, we have to all be on the same page on what does this look like in our mind's eye. And so once we all are in concert of what that looks like, we can start to drive towards that. And then the 1 year plan is really our measurables along with the 3 year picture of the same measurables. But it's what do we need to get done this year? And then 3 to 7 goals, the non negotiables that we need to get done as a group that we all agree on in order to move us forward. And then we go into 90-day rocks. Those are the 90-day priorities that we need to get done as a team because we can't get everything done at once. We would love to as entrepreneurs, but we can't. And then we have the long-term issues list. And so the things that we can't get done in that time doesn't mean that they go away. We just have to be able to compartmentalize and place those on the issues list, long-term issues list. I would say that's the most important document. And as a small to medium-sized business, I've used that to recruit other people and saying, hey, if you want to join our team, these are our core values. This is what we do best. This is how we roll. And here's the plan on how to get there. And it's not a 30 or 40 page business plan, but really concise map of how we want to get there. Almost like the old AAA triptychs, right? I'm dating myself now, but of how we're going to get where we want to go.
Interesting. A lot of when we talk about leadership operating system, which EOS helps, what's the most common problem you see when you first walk into a leadership team session room?
Just confusion, not being clear on the roles, not being clear on where they want to go. Depends on if it's a family organization. Family organizations are a little bit different. Sometimes there's just dysfunction there, and it's not meant in a derogatory way, but we start to operate the best we can without having that clarity. And so I always like to say clarity is kindness. Being really clear on what the expectations are really kind to everyone that's involved because now we know what those expectations we have to meet are.
Interesting. Another question I have for you is a lot of this we talked about earlier, talking about when a business is ready for EOS. And a lot of companies, you talked about chaos and people are fighting out fires versus forward motion. How long does it take for EOS to turn around a company in terms of impact, structure, execution relief? And what is the difference between a business that runs on EOS and one that's just getting by?
All right, great question. So I heard the last question. He asked two questions there. What was the first question again? I'm sorry, I want to answer it.
How long does it take for
How long?
EOS to turn around the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on the size of the organization. Obviously, a smaller company is going to be more nimble than a large company with 5,000 people. But small to mid-sized companies, you really see within 6 to 12 months things starting to turn around and the chaos starts to calm down overall. Larger companies may take a little bit longer, but as long as the leadership team is unified with one voice, that will calm down quickly. If there's fractures in the leadership team, there's going to be a Grand Canyon down below. And so we need to make sure that we're really concise and we have all the right people in the right seats at the leadership team level. If that's being said and done, 6 to 12 months in a small to medium sized business where everything kind of subsides and you start to gain traction. And it's really interesting because you really start to see the quarterly rocks being less about fixing issues and more about growth at that moment in time. And so that's when the fun really starts is when we're really getting into, okay, what do we have to do next in order to grow? So yeah, that's about the time frame. We tell people have a 24-month commitment, mental commitment when you're working with an implementer because it takes that long to get really used to running your business a different way. And there's all sorts of tools that we teach along the way.
Interesting. Tell us, finally, we have around 5 minutes remaining. Tell us a
Sure.
turnaround story for EOS, turn things around, and how can people connect with you and reach out to you?
Yeah, one of our clients is a roofing company. And if you talk to him, Jim will say that he always thought he had a roofing company. And what he found out is that he had a people development company. And so I love this story. They got to the point where they hit their goals for the year. And Jim decided to take his whole team, 200 employees plus their spouses, on a cruise once they hit those goals. And so they hit the goal, and two different women came up to him at two separate occasions, and they both grabbed him and they started to cry on the shoulder. And he said, he's taken back. He's like, what's wrong? And she goes, I don't know what you did for my husband, but he's completely changed. They both said the same exact thing. And so what he found was is that they were a people development company and their profits started to soar. And one of the things that he had said was is we don't have a hard time finding labor. We don't have a labor shortage for us because it is now permeating out to the rest of people out there that want to work for us. And now we have to start to sift through applications for roofers that are out of state that want to come work for us. I think it's a great story because it's, of course, we want to have profit and we want to make our jobs easier, right? And our lives easier. But it really, he was changing not only the culture of his organization, but the culture of those families that were really bought in to that organization. And I wake up every day thanking God that I get to be able to do that for people.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, and really interesting. Again, you're the second guest who's talked about EOS, and really thank you for coming on and bringing light to this interesting new approach.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, we're all really good at what we do. You were a physician, if I understand right. And so you may have been great, or I was great at my other job, but I wasn't great at running a business. And it's normal. That's a normal thing. And once we understand the framework on how to do that, it makes life a lot easier for us to reach our goals. Yeah, you can stop by. You can email me at greg.giniel@eosworldwide.com if you'd like to talk about it. I love talking to business owners. There's no pressure whatsoever. I just want to help people to get to where they want to go.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, and again, thanks for a great podcast.
Yeah, thanks for